And let's talk about this further. We're joined by our expert guest, Meera Shankar, former Indian ambassador to the US. Good evening to you. Ms. Shankar, what do you make of how things are going and this X factor that's been injected into the entire contest by Joe Biden? Clearly, Kamala Harris distancing herself, not only distancing herself, but also disapproving, it seemed, of how Biden put across his point. It wasn't intended that way, but it sounded, I'm sure, offensive to a lot of people.
Yes, I think it was in response to the remark made by an entertainer at Trump's rally where he called Puerto Ricans garbage. And so I think Joe Biden was basically, as he's tried to clarify, saying that that kind of rhetoric from Trump's supporters is garbage. That's the garbage he sees floating around. But at the timing could not have been worse in terms of the comments that he's made. So both sides are grappling with this. Trump is trying to assuage the Puerto Ricans. Some Puerto Rican news media has endorsed Kamala Harris after Trump's remarks. And on the other hand, Trump supporters are upset with Biden's remarks. But Kamala Harris is not Joe Biden, and she's made that clear. And her message, the message that she's trying to give, is that she will be a unifier who will bring people together and will be a president for all of America, irrespective of those who voted for her or those who didn't. It's a very tight race at the moment, and the polls keep moving up and down, and they are all within the margin of error. National polls show Kamala with a lead, but it's come down to 1%. And in the swing states, Trump has an edge in Georgia, Arizona, and North Carolina, of 1% in North Carolina, 2% in the other states, whereas Harris has an edge of 1% in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Nevada. And in Pennsylvania, the polls are showing Trump with an edge of 1%, which is a key swing state because it has 19 electoral college votes. So both sides are making a keen effort to, cultivate these swing states. All the polls, even where they have an edge, they are within the margin of error. It's a lead of 1% or 2%. So it's far too narrow for anyone to make, a confident prediction of which way the election will swing on polling day.
Yeah, certainly. But do you think issues like these, the one that's been stirred up by first Trump's Madison Square Garden rally, where these comments were made, and then Joe Biden, and now what's happening with the different people making all sorts of attacks and counterattacks, do you think they can really change people's minds? Because look at how early voting is taking place. Already over 51 million American voters have cast their ballot. So it's unlikely to change their choice.
Look at America. There are 50 states. Now, most of those states are traditionally either Republican, they vote Republican like Texas, or they vote Democrat like New York or California. And so the battle really comes down to these swing states where the population and the voter profile is mixed. So they're going to have an outsized role in terms of where the election finally pans out. Quite a number of voters still say they haven't made up their minds. Not so many, but still, that is the heart which both candidates will pitch for. Because those who are their committed supporters are already there with them. It's those who are undecided or middle of the roaders who can swing from one party to another based on who they think is the better candidate. This is the ground on which both are operating at the moment. Now, you mentioned issues really, with Kamla saying that she will have, A, she'll be a unifier, not a divider. B, she will try to have an economy of opportunity which works for the middle class, not only for the super rich, and focusing on abortion rights, which has become a big issue with women. Trump has been focusing on illegal immigration and this sense of America being under siege from illegal immigrants. Now, what actually is the unspoken element here is race. This whole fear of illegal immigrants, it's basically white anxiety. It is anxiety about potential demographic change in the United States, even though it's far from it at the moment. But who will get to control the polity, the economy of the US as the color of the United States changes and becomes more diverse. So the unspoken element when this fear of immigration is spoken about.
Do you think also, Meera Shankar, that some of the issues that are really at the core of these elections linked to the principal issue that voters see is a cause that needs to be addressed, which is the economy? And these linked issues are both Russia, the war in Ukraine, and even China. They've sort of faded a bit into the background with these sort of other issues related to race, to reproductive rights and justice, and some of the other issues cropping up and taking more prominence.
Yes, I think foreign policy issues are not at the center of US voter concerns.
But they are connected to the economy.
They are maybe connected to the economy. The economy has been doing quite well, actually, compared to other developing country economies.
Yes, new numbers have come today as well.
The Biden administration has steered the economy quite skillfully because they managed to now tame inflation, reduce unemployment, and still have growth. There was a worry that the US would enter a recession, but it hasn't. Nevertheless, the economy still doesn't generate a feel-good factor amongst the public because inflation has been high. The US consumer has been used to low inflation for a very long time, and they've been feeling the pain of having to pay higher prices for what they consume, of higher mortgage payments on their house loans or higher house rentals. And all that has translated into, some dissatisfaction with the economy, despite the fact that the US has performed the best out of all the developed country economies at this juncture. And most economists give Biden credit for steering it fairly skillfully, but it hasn't translated, as I said, into a feel-good factor for the public. So the economy is at the center of voter concerns. It's always been in the US. If you remember Bill Clinton and his slogan, it's the economy, stupid. And despite George Bush Sr. having won the Iraq war with Saddam Hussein and so on, the voters voted Clinton in because their concerns were not about, we have, put Saddam in his place and, this is great. No, they actually thought about the economy first. And then there has been a concern about immigration because, this is a challenge which the Trump administration faced, which the Democratic administration has also faced. And there is a sense that the Democrats have perhaps been not tough enough on illegal migration. And what the Republicans have done is to take illegal immigrants and bus them into so-called sanctuary cities such as New York or Chicago or others, where, refugees are allowed to stay till their political asylum cases are decided. So as a result, many of the cities have been overwhelmed. But figures show that actually it's come down in the last year and more. It's come down. And of course, the Democrats say they were willing to put more money, strengthen border enforcement, but and there was a bipartisan bill in the Senate supported by both Republicans and Democrats, but Trump asked his supporters in the House of Representatives to kill it. So he wants to run on a problem rather than fix it. But these are the issues really which matter to them. But there are segments, let's say the Arab Americans, for whom what is happening in the Middle East or in West Asia, as we call it, would matter a lot. And if they decide to boycott or, vote for Trump, then it impinges. They've traditionally been Democratic supporters.
Yes.
It impinge in, say, Michigan, where
Yes.
they are there in quite substantial numbers, on the outcome for Harris. On the other hand, you have the Jewish lobby, which would be very keenly watching what kind of policy is followed vis-a-vis Israel. So there are segments, of the population who are very concerned about foreign policy, but the larger voting electorate, I think, is more concerned about bread and butter issues and domestic issues.
Yes, certainly. And I would have loved to talk to you a little bit more about this, but we're completely out of time. Building up concern to election day on security as well, because in India we're accustomed to seeing security personnel carrying guns because that is one prime concern, and it is emerging as one in the US too, with the kind of polarization that we're seeing. But perhaps we'll have another opportunity in the coming days to do that. Thank you for joining us. For the moment, Meera Shankar.